afternoon. How you guys doing? Welcome back. It's Miles. Hope you've been doing well. I am in the middle of moving, and this week is like the moving week. And so I'm like surrounded by boxes, trying to pack away stuff, and it's just been nonstop chaos most of this weekend leading up to today, and the rest of this week is gonna be crazy. But I wanted to put out something for you guys just so you know that I'm not dead. So let's get right on into that. Recently, I asked you guys on Instagram to submit some questions to me about music, music jobs, anything that's on your mind, whether it be about me or just in general. And graciously, you guys responded. So now I have some questions to answer, and I'm going to try to answer them to the best of my abilities. So without further ado, let's do it.
Megadeth or Metallica?
Oh boy. I guess I'll just give an answer because I don't think there's any way I can do this without upsetting anyone. But if I had to choose between Megadeth and Metallica, I'd probably choose Metallica. It's nothing against Dave Mustaine, aside from the fact that I just don't like his singing voice, but that's just a small detail. I think it's also just the songwriting in general. Like, obviously the musical ability is there. Between Marty Friedman, Chris Broderick, and everyone else that's been in Megadeth, there's always been great players, without a question. But just the music itself, it's never been something that's really grabbed me and pulled me in. It's never been the kind of stuff that I've gravitated towards. And I don't know, it's nothing personal. Just don't like Megadeth. I find there's more songs from Metallica that I know and would still go back and listen to today. So if you're like a diehard Megadeth fan, my bad. I promise I'm still fun.
Do you find being a left-handed musician difficult?
Ooh, difficult is not even where I would start. I mean, because think about it. When you're a left-handed musician, just being left-handed, the entire world is against you. Books. When you're writing in a notebook, if you're writing in a 3-ring binder, you gotta navigate over those little rings in the middle of the binder. In terms of guitar, there's a limited selection of guitars available to me and other lefties. Usually what's available is like the black Squire Strat that's in the back corner of the music store. And that's it. Over the years, more options have been made available by different companies. I'll say that Schecter and Ibanez have been great about that. But there's other companies as well. The other thing is that like some guitars look really dumb as lefties. Like a left-handed Les Paul. It's an ugly guitar. Same thing with, I guess I could say a Telecaster, but I play a Telecaster, so I don't know. It's just not, I guess it just goes from person to person in that case. But it's interesting overall in terms of how you go forward as a left-handed person in music. Like with me, the first person I went to take guitar lessons from refused to teach me unless I played righty. Which at the time, you could be a music teacher and say that to a student and, parents would be like, How dare you? Or anything like that. My parents were just like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't want to do that. Because holding a guitar this way makes, even just pretending, this feels ridiculous. And so I felt better suited just going home and trying to teach myself how to play the guitar. And I did that from like the age of 8 up until high school. And then I started taking guitar lessons like actually. And even then I had a guitar teacher in high school who is left-handed and plays righty. 2 of the guys in my band are left-handed and play righty. And that seems to be commonplace with a lot of lefties. But for me, it just made no sense. So I stuck with what I have and kind of gripped my teeth with all the difficulties that came along with it. So certainly it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And especially now, you got options. So if you're lefty, you're good. Do your thing.
How many instruments can you play?
Predominantly, my instruments of choice are guitar and bass. Those are the ones that I've been playing the longest, most consistently. But for a little while when I was younger, I played cello. In college, I started taking lessons in piano. And since then, I've learned how to play the sitar, a little bit of harmonica, and I can play a little bit of ukulele as well. I'd like to learn how to play the banjo one day. But like, I spend most of my time focusing in on guitar and bass because there's so many different variations and techniques that are involved with those two instruments individually. And I want to try to get good at all of them. I try to be at least somewhat well-rounded in any and all techniques on guitar and bass. I sing a little bit. I couldn't tell you the first thing about singing. I could tell you how to sing some scales. I could tell you all the things not to do in order to be a better singer. But the idea of being a vocal teacher, to me, that's like trying to explain colors to blind people. I've done vocal lessons before, but a lot of it is just kind of showing students how to like not ruin their voice. So pretty much just don't do anything that I do on a regular basis.
Did you go to college? And if so, what did you go for?
I did go to college. I attended SUNY Purchase in Westchester, and I majored in studio composition. I was there for 4 years within the music conservatory, graduated with a bachelor's. I initially didn't want to go to school at all. I wanted to get out of high school as soon as I possibly could, because I hated it, and just get a job working for O&R, or just doing anything. If I could have retired after senior year of high school, I absolutely would have. Hands down. Purchase was the only school I applied to, and I applied super duper late because my parents and my guidance counselor were all like,
What are you gonna do with your life if you don't go to college?
And I was like, I don't know, sleep. But reluctantly, I put in an application for Purchase. I put it in super duper late. I figured I wouldn't get in, and I'd be like, oh, darn. All right, guess I'm not going to college. And they got back to me and said, come on in for an audition. And so I came in for an audition, and it was my first introduction to first realizing that at that time, I was not as good as I thought I was. I was listening to the other kids that were in the audition room while I was waiting out in the hallway and was already thinking, what am I doing here? They're going to laugh at me. I got to get out of here. It was certainly a humbling experience, including taking the placement test for my models course, which is basically music theory in college. But they have different levels of it. And they give you a placement test to decide where you're going to start. Because not everyone's coming in with the same level of music theory knowledge right from the get-go. I think the first question on my placement exam was asking what the purpose of inverting chords was. To which I went and asked the professor that was administering the test, how do you turn a chord upside down? And he laughed at me and said, your model's 1. I'll see you on Monday. And I didn't know what he meant at the time. And then I went to the class and started learning about everything and was like, oh, got it. I was super antisocial when I first went to school. I had every intention of trying to stay in my room until I graduated. But once I gave it a chance, I met some really cool people. I had some really great experiences, made some great connections that I still have to this day. And, yeah, I'd say I had a good time. Turns out my mom and dad were right. Don't tell them I said that, though.
Are you still doing music lessons?
As a matter of fact, I am still doing music lessons, for that is my job. I'm teaching at 2 different places right now, and aside from that, I've been doing lessons via Skype, and on occasion I'll go to people directly or they come to me. It's just been sort of sporadic right now in terms of my availability because of the move and everything. You know, like whenever I think I have time, I usually find out very quickly that I don't actually have time to go to someone's house or to make room in the house for someone to come here amongst all these boxes. Majority of the work that I'm doing right now is at my primary jobs. So if you're in the market for lessons and you're in New Jersey or Rockland County, you should go and check out Rob's School of Music or Beaumont Guitars and ask for me.
Can you get in trouble for using an artist's signature model instrument on one of your own recordings?
Now, this was a question that was proposed to me recently by a student, and they were really weary about asking me the question because they were like, I feel really stupid asking this. I feel like the answer's going to be really dumb, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, it's not a stupid question. Don't think that any question that they're asking is stupid. If you want to know something, you should ask questions. As far as this goes, I'd say it's a valid question because if you look at where we are in the music industry right now, it could happen. It could happen that there'd be a company one day trying to file a lawsuit against an individual for using their instrument in a video, in a song, anything. Because you look at companies like Gibson that are going after companies like Dean for selling guitars. Not guitars that say Gibson on them, but selling guitars that look similar to Gibson's, which is stupid. It's incredibly stupid. And Gibson ought to be ashamed of themselves. But I digress. In my opinion, if anyone was to come after an individual for using their signature model instrument on a recording, they'd kind of be stepping on their own toes. Because think about it. If you're selling a signature model instrument and someone takes the time to go out, check it out, buy it, and likes it so much they want to record with it, they're giving you promotion for your product. So it would be sort of senseless to come down on that person that's trying to promote you and give your product more exposure by using it, whether it be in video or in audio form. So I would like to believe that it's something that as musicians we won't have to worry about in the future. I don't know for certain because everyone's grubbing for money, but as of right now, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Favorite music?
Favorite music. I don't like saying I'm into everything because while it's technically true, like I literally like everything, but it tends to be a saying it's an answer that's used too much by people and it's not actually sincerely meaning what it means. For me, I grew up with my parents listening to a very vast and eclectic collection of music, ranging from like Delta blues, Motown, R&B, soul, funk, jazz, and Rolling Stones, classic rock of all sorts, Carlos Santana, Led Zeppelin, all this like stuff from everywhere, and even other things like Run DMC, Public Enemy. My dad especially was encouraging of me to kind of like keep an open mind musically and to listen to anything and everything. I already had an appreciation for classical music, so I think that just kind of stemmed from me playing cello. I don't have an appreciation for Pachelbel's canon as a cello player. It's the worst, absolute worst. But in terms of music overall, I have an appreciation for everything. I gravitate more towards more upbeat music. I mean, in most cases. Like the first CD I ever bought was No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom. I bought that from like Sam Goody in an Anyway Mall. When I was going out to local shows, I would see bands like Daly's Gone Wrong, Three Monkeys Named Bob. Even caught a set from this band Shabuti back in the day. And I remember just being like really captivated by the fact that there was just like this tiny room of really sweaty kids all tackling each other to go and scream on a microphone. And it reminded me of the videos I would see of bands like Bad Brains and stuff like that. And I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I like. I also went through a weird phase in high school and college where I was listening to a bunch of like, I guess you could refer to it as tough guy hardcore. Hatebreed, Throwdown, Parkway Drive. But then I kind of graduated to deathcore. So I was listening to Suicide Silence, Job for a Cowboy, Carnifex, stuff of that nature. And then things just went completely off the rails and I started listening to like Number 12 Looks Like You, See You Next Tuesday, the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza, Horse the Band. Yeah, all beautiful stuff. I loved it. And it was all influential and beautiful and just great. But then I started listening to other bands like Between the Buried and Me and Muse. And a friend of mine was in a band called Skeleton Breath, which was like violin, bass, and drums. And it was not what you would expect from violin. It was just, go check them out. Look them up. Go check them out. Go. Right now. Pause this video, open a new tab, and go look them up. right now. Oh wait. But overall, I there's no genre of music that I don't really like. Even country I like. Brad Paisley is a mean guitar player. John Five does a lot of country-esque stuff as well. And I love the sound of a pedal steel. It's an instrument that I would love to learn how to play one day, as soon as I have like $6,000 to buy one. But I also like more mainstream stuff as well. Bruno Mars, Lizzo. I've been a fan of Eminem since he first came out. He's had a couple rough patches in terms of his albums, but I think that it's important as an artist to continue to do things that are not the same generic package, just being repackaged with a different color wrapping on it. Kendrick Lamar is great. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So honestly, when I say that I'm into everything, I mean it.
I'm curious as to what I should do for a job after I get out of college. This is my senior year, and I want a job in the music industry, but I don't know where to start. Should I try getting a job at a studio?
So I have plans to do a video on this topic in the near future. I just haven't had the time to really sit down and do the full thing, and I want to organize it a little bit better first. But for now, to answer your question about getting a studio job outside of college, you got to remember that in this day and age, a lot of people aren't going to studios to do recording in terms of their music nowadays. Whether it be that they just don't have a studio available to them in their general vicinity, or they just simply can't afford it. Usually what happens nowadays is that someone finds someone who has a home studio and goes and records there. Or they simply record everything themselves. With my band, we've been going and recording with my buddy Steve, and he's got a studio at his house. And he doesn't charge a lot. He does a great job. Everything sounds awesome. So I'm not really motivated to go and try and find someone else to record with, especially if it's going to be like $1,000 a day. That's just absurd. And if it's just to have someone's name attached to it, I don't know. Is it really worth it? But that's just me coming from the artist standpoint. Now, for you as a young college student getting ready to go out into the real world looking for a job, you might be better suited looking for a job at, say, a rehearsal studio, or at least having a better idea of what you want to do if you go and get a studio job. Maybe you want to get a job working for a record label, working at the front desk, doing scheduling, or recruitment of artists. Maybe you want to do A&R, where you go out and you scout artists for your studio, for the label you're working for, stuff of that nature. These are jobs that still exist and are like actual jobs. You're not just being a custodian at a studio. But you can also do that. Every studio needs to be cleaned. For me, when I first got out of school, I didn't really have a game plan in mind. I just knew that I wanted to do something with music when I got out from school. So I had all these tools at my availability now, and I knew what to do with them. So now I just wanted to find a place to utilize these new skills that I have. I think my idea initially was that I was going to become a studio musician, studio guitar player, and do work playing on other people's tracks. But that turned out to be something that wasn't as lucrative as I was initially hoping it would be. Because, again, not a lot of people are going to studios. Not a lot of people are going, and not only not going to studios, but going so unprepared they don't have artists to play on their stuff. Every once in a while it would happen, but you run into problems in that case because you run into the issue of the artist or the studio themselves not necessarily wanting to pay you for your work, and so they want you to come out, play on this track, and they try to downplay the amount of effort that goes into playing the guitar on someone's song or learning someone's song. Or maybe they just want you to be there and be grateful for the exposure, the new connection. And if connections and exposure paid my bills, I'd be doing all right. So don't put yourself in that position. As a young musician going out into the working world, one of the things that you want to try to keep in mind is that you want to try to keep your options open and available. I don't want to say turn down opportunities, but I also don't want to say take every opportunity. I'd say you're best suited trying to be really thoughtful about the opportunities that you go and pursue. When I was younger, I was told, no matter what, whenever opportunity comes your way, you say yes and you take it, because you're not in a position to be picky. And realistically, I wasn't. But you get to a point where you're getting stepped on by people more than you're actually making headway in terms of your progression as an artist. And you want to be sort of strategic in terms of your actions, in terms of how they're going to affect your music career. So I picked up gigs here and there. I was playing at weddings, I was doing bar gigs, I was doing random cover band things. I even did music for a Ford commercial. Doing licensing stuff is great, but it's not full-time work unless you get really lucky and you find yourself in a position where you have consistent opportunities being sent your way. But for the rest of us, you might have to go out and get a real job. And by real job, I mean like retail or like the service industry, something like that. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, having a consistent job is really not a bad thing. Nothing like knowing when you're going to get paid. But you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position where that job isn't overruling your ability to sort of still put effort and energy into the stuff that you really want to do. You know, one of the things that I want to touch on in this future video is how if you work at certain music schools, there's really not an emphasis on the idea of you being a working musician because they want you to be a musician that works for them. And so it leaves you with very little time to put towards writing your own music, doing your own stuff, playing your own shows. And it's not encouraged for you to go out and do that stuff. So you don't necessarily want to be in that sort of environment. But yeah, overall, I can't tell you what to do with your future. I don't have the end-all be-all solution to your question. You need to really know what you want to do and do your best to pursue it however you can, even if you have to find some alternatives for money in the meantime, which doesn't mean that you failed. If you have to go out and get another job, it just means that you got to be more strategic about how you utilize your time. For me now, I still play out in my band. I'm still writing new music and I'm still doing a lot of music stuff, including this YouTube channel. And I'm still doing that while I have my 2 kids and I have other things going on my plate. So you kind of have to just like reevaluate how things go. It was a lot easier for me to be creative when I was in college because when you're in college, you're on your own. You're you. And it's up to you whether you show up for class or not. It's up to you whether or not you show up to school at all. And what you do with your time is completely at your disposal to decide. So I would spend a lot of time just like in my room working on trying to write better songs, working on new music, and trying to be as creative as I possibly could be. So when you get out into the real world, your time management has to change a little bit. In most cases. I think that if you want to find a job in music, it's capable of being done. You just have to be realistic about what your options truly are. If you want to find a studio job, if that's what you're dead set on doing, do it. Find a studio. And you make the best of that job as you can. All right, guys. So that's it for now. Those were all the questions that I had. And hopefully you found this to be informative, useful, whatever. If you want to make this into like a regular thing, let me know and send me some more questions and we can discuss some stuff. But yeah, if you like the video, hit like. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, consider going over to my Patreon. Without the patrons that I have over there, these videos would be a lot harder to make. And other than that, I will see you guys soon. Hopefully sooner than later. I'm not sure how long this move is going to actually take. It should be this weekend that it takes place. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right? But until next time, guys, be safe, keep playing. Peace.